Good morning, I'm Pauline Verzosa. It is Monday, the 18th of May, and we're bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Now, welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. And now, first on the agenda. After a week of chases, gunfire, and a leadership shakeup at the Senate, senators return to work for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. And the Senate will convene as an impeachment court, with senators expected to wear their robes as senator judges. Here's the report.
After the chase and the change in leadership, senators are set to return to work today for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. On Friday, Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano sent a letter to members of the chamber. All senators are being asked to attend at 3 in the afternoon as the Senate convenes as an impeachment court. And as they take on the role of senator judges, they are also being asked to wear their robes. Senator Jinggoy Estrada, for his part, showed how he is preparing. The senator was seen going through the transmitted articles of impeachment. Meanwhile, in his Facebook Live on Saturday, Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano again insisted that the impeachment of VP Sara was not the reason behind the coup in the Senate leadership.
I hope those who made a judgment, may you be a religious leader, may you be deans of law schools, may you be a private citizen. Sabi ko naman po, we accept your criticism. Dapat maging aktivista, dapat kalampagin nyo kami.
But according to Philippine Society for Public Administration President Ederson Tapia, there was clearly a hidden agenda behind the sudden appearance of Senator Bato de la Rosa in the Senate, just days before the Vice President was impeached by the House.
It's quite obvious kasi we have to admit that the lead of the previous majority was very thin. It will become more difficult for the prosecution to establish their case given that the terrain is not exactly friendly to them.
Meanwhile, ahead of the trial, several congressmen attended the Mass for Peace and Accountability at the EDSA Shrine. One of the prosecutors, ML Party List Representative Laila de Lima, had this appeal to the center judges.
We certainly hope that they will do their job impartially. Kasi yun naman talaga ang nakalagay. Even sa rules nila, they are being asked to exhibit political neutrality. While sitting as senator judges, they should exercise political neutrality.
The 11 members of the House prosecution panel will also attend.
Now, PNP Chief Police General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. has ordered an investigation into claims that police vehicles may have escorted Senator Bato de la Rosa out of the Senate compound on May 14. Nartates directed an independent review of logbooks, CCTV footage, and radio dispatches to verify what really happened during the incident. Before this, the Department of Justice issued an immigration lookout bulletin order against De La Rosa.
Nirerespeto natin ang mga karapatan ng isang nakaupong senador. Diba? Halal siya ng maraming Pilipino. Diba? Pero yung pag nag-attempt ka sa galigtaan ng gantong sitwasyon, na lilipad ka o pupunta ka, teka, ibang usapan yan. Hindi naman namin pwedeng pabayaan yung obligasyon ng ating gobyerno. Diba?
Meanwhile, Ombudsman Boying Remulla urged the senator to face the ICC case against him. He said that if De La Rosa has done nothing wrong, he should answer the allegations directly.
Ba't niya ginugulo yung mundo eh? Managot kasi yung mga gawain, sagutin mo yung mga, sabihin mo kung wala ka talagang kasalanan, harapin mo. Anong klaseng tao yan? Di ba? Ganyan ba dapat maging senador natin? Yung tumatakbo sa batas? Is that the hero we want to portray? Di ba? Managot siya, harapin niya lang ang mga paratang at sagutin niya na maayos kung wala talaga siya kasalanan. Flight is indication of guilt.
Meanwhile, Novaliches Bishop Teodoro Bacani is reminding senators that they serve the country and not Vice President Sara Duterte. In his homily at a mass at the EDSA Shrine, Bacani called on senators to have a conscience and not base their vote on political alliance. Bacani, who helped frame the 1987 Constitution, also said the trial should begin immediately. Members of the House Prosecution Panel and several groups attended the mass to call for accountability. And in other news, the World Health Organization has declared the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern amid rising deaths and confirmed cases linked to the rare Bundibugyo strain of the virus. Here is the report.
The World Health Organization has declared the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern. Health authorities said the outbreak, linked to the rare Bundibugyo strain of the Ebola virus, has already caused dozens of deaths in eastern Congo's Ituri province. As of Saturday, the WHO reported 80 suspected deaths, 8 confirmed cases, and 246 suspected infections across several health zones, including Bunia, Rampara, and Bongbalu. While the WHO said the situation has not yet reached pandemic level, it warned that neighboring countries remain at high risk due to ongoing cross-border movement. The UN Health Agency said the situation is especially alarming because there are currently no approved vaccines or treatments specifically designed for the Bundibugyo strain, unlike the more common Ebola Zer variants responsible for most previous outbreaks in Congo. The Bundibugyo virus caused Ebola hemorrhagic fever, spread through direct contact with infected blood and bodily fluids. Symptoms include fever, bleeding, and multi-organ failure, with a fatality rate that can reach 50 to 90%.
This is the equity issue. And Western countries, they don't understand that when Africa is affected, they are also at risk because people are flying every day. And it means building strong system, supporting Africa, investing in Africa to have the local manufacturing of our vaccine and medicine is also the way to protect Western countries.
Now, don't go away. We will be back with more stories after this break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning and welcome back. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and we give you the context behind the headlines. Well, as we know, the Senate is expected to convene today as an impeachment court for the trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Senators are set to take their oath as judges, with the chamber also expected to tackle the rules that will govern the proceedings. The case stems from allegations involving the alleged misuse of confidential funds, questions over budget expenditures, and abuse of authority, all of which Duterte has repeatedly denied. Legal analysts expect the first day to focus mostly on organizational matters, including appearances of both sides, possible summons, and the trial calendar. And joining us now is Integrated Bar of the Philippines President, Attorney Alan Panolong. Good morning, Attorney. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Hi, good morning, Pauline, and good morning to our all televiewers. Magandang umaga po.
Okay, so Attorney, today is a much anticipated day. The Senate is expected to convene as an impeachment court. Pero from a legal standpoint, Attorney, tell us what should happen first once the Senate convenes. Walk us through what the public should watch out for.
All right. As announced, today the Senate will convene as an impeachment court. So first, they have to the Senate shall issue formal invitation to the members of the Senate in order for them to be informed that they will convene. Now, once they have convened, the Senate President will now take his oath as the presiding officer or presiding judge. And the remaining members of the Senate will also take their oath as senator judges. And then they will now come up with the order of business of the day, which is normally to issue summon to the impeached officer, which is, in this case, is the Vice President of the Philippines, who is Honorable Sara Duterte.
Mm-hmm. And today na rin po ba, Attorney, i-discuss ng Senate as an impeachment court yung kanilang rules, ano? And if so, do they have the freedom to put in any kind of rule they want, because they do have the sole power here to try and decide impeachment cases?
You know, Ms. Pauline, the Senate is more or less very much expert on the impeachment process, considering that we already have so many cases of impeachment in the past. So under their rules, they have their own rules of impeachment procedure, and I think the Senate will have to revisit them in order for them to either they want to adopt in toto, or they want to amend, or they want to what's this? Yeah, or probably to enrich further if they wanted to add more. But these rules, I believe, have been the rules since, no, and I don't think it needs some substantial changes.
Well, there was this proposal, Attorney, no, from Senator Rodante Marcoleta, a proposal to amend the rule requiring senators to be physically present at the Senate when they conduct a vote. So essentially, the amendment here is that senators can vote virtually anywhere, basta online po, ano. What do you make of that kind of amendment to a rule?
Uh, well, since the issue concerns national interest or public interest, the rule should not be made to accommodate one or two or any senators who cannot be able to attend the proceeding, because it will destroy the integrity of the proceeding. You know, impeachment is although it is a political exercise, but it is also a means to call public accountability. Now, if we bend the rule just to accommodate one or two senators, you know, who cannot, by legal impediment, cannot be present in order to participate in the proceeding, or worse, to vote for the decision, then my personal opinion is that it is a mockery of the rules, and it's a mockery of the procedure. It should not be that way.
Well, attorney, legal scholars and constitutional experts have already warned against any potential delays in the impeachment process. If may makita po tayo, attorney, let's say, na kahit anong delaying tactics po later on, ano po magiging implikasyon niyan?
Well, it will erode the integrity of the Senate, because the people have been monitoring and have been watching on this, and they expect that upon the convening of the impeachment body, then they have to proceed with the trial process. Now, if they delay this further for no reason at all, or for no legal ground, then it would really be parang it will erode the integrity of the institution.
But just to clarify, attorney, what is allowed from the senators when they become senator judges? And tama po ba na they must convene themselves first as an impeachment court before tackling any matter related to the impeachment? Kasi there are some concerns that there might be a motion raised to dismiss the complaint altogether if there are enough votes. Based on what we've seen last year, diba? The impeachment was remanded, eventually it was archived. So there are fears, attorney, that could happen again this time around.
Well, first things first, they have to convene as an impeachment court. That is basic, because if they won't convene as an impeachment court, there is nothing to tackle. Because take note that the impeachment, this is not their regular job, no? Because their main duty is to legislate or pass laws. Now, the impeachment is a special or duty of the senators in the event that an impeachment case is brought before them. So it is true that they have to convene first. Otherwise, they cannot initiate any act or any agenda or agendum for that matter.
So once they convene, attorney, wala na pong atrasan yan. They have already convened themselves as an impeachment court. But with that said, gaano rin po ka-importante or sacred, attorney, yung pag-take ng oath ng senator judges in ensuring impartiality when it comes to this impeachment process?
Well, it is very important because, for one, they swore to defend the Constitution, and they swore to uphold the rule of law. So that is basic. So when you swear before the Constitution, So it goes to say that all your actions, your decision will be guided by the teachings of the Constitution.
And Attorney, what should Senator judges keep in mind to avoid courting a possible constitutional crisis?
Oh, they have to avoid showing manifest partiality in the course of the proceeding. Because, as senator judges, they have to expect to be fair, impartial, and just. So the moment they manifest partiality, so it will destroy the proceeding, because it would now be very obvious on their decision on the matter. Secondly, I think there is a gag order preventing them or discouraging from appearing before any media or discussing the merits of the case in any public forum. So they have to avoid that, so that it will not destroy or preempt the result of the impeachment, and that is very necessary.
Well, we know, Attorney, that the impeachment process is still anchored and grounded on due process. So walk us through some of the requirements, not just for the prosecution, but even for the defense. Ano po yung mga due process requirements na nararapat po sa parehong partido during an impeachment trial?
Well, ang impeachment trial is similar to a regular court trial. The prosecution will first present their evidence in chief, because they are the one accusing the impeached officer of alleged violations of the constitutions. So what are those alleged violations in the articles of impeachment mentioned? Number one is culpable violation of the constitution, betrayal of public trust, betrayal of public trust, graft and corruption, and violations or committing either high crimes. Now, the prosecution's job is to establish the essential elements, the presence of the essential elements of all those accusations that they allege in their articles of impeachment. On the other hand, the defense is given an opportunity to rebut, to cross-examine the witnesses, to examine the evidence presented before the impeachment court, and they can avail of all the necessary remedies applicable under under this jurisdiction in order to protect the interests of their client. So I think the idea to shorten the proceeding by filing a motion to dismiss is not a wise legal option under the circumstances, because the allegations are in nature very serious. So for them to get not only a favorable approval from the senator judges, but also to convince the public that their client is indeed innocent of the charges. So tandaan po natin ito, Ma'am Pauline, the people are also watching us judges. They are actually examining the behavior of our senator judges, even the prosecutors, even the defense. So they themselves are actually weighing the evidence, whether kung convincing ba to o hindi. But of course, ultimately, it is the Senate which the Senate as an impeachment court will decide ultimately as to the fate of the impeached vice president. So ganun po yun, no? So it's evidentiary. So the prosecution, ilalatag niya one by one for each charge. For instance, for the culpable violation of the Constitution, ano yung charge nila dyan? Yung alleged unexplained wealth. So what are those evidence for alleged unexplained wealth? So these are the banking transactions, among other financial transactions that they unearthed. And more importantly, they have to present an expert witness who will testify and confirm as to the alleged illegal financial transactions. Now, the defense has remedy. Pwede niyang, it can avail of the available remedies under the law, so they can cross-examine the officer, the witnesses being presented by the prosecution. They can even object to the evidence presented, supposing the evidence was obtained illegally, or as we call it, is a fruit of the poisonous tree. So if the evidence is not really admissible, it is not competent. So they can do that, or they can do that. Now, after the presentation of the evidence of the prosecution for the first charge of culpable violation, they have to proceed with the graft and corruption, which is the alleged misuse of the confidential fund. And another thing, the third charge is about again. Remember that public statement made by the vice president until all the charges have been presented by the prosecution, and that the defense was also given an opportunity to examine the evidence, and they have all the opportunity to object at any stage of that proceeding, and also during trial, and also they're also given an opportunity to present their evidence, supposing after the prosecution has rested its case. Ganun po ang proseso. Medyo masalimuot to, Ma'am Pauline, because there are a lot of charges, and these charges will have to be presented, presented by the prosecution, and it will take lots of time, I think, for the prosecution to be able to present all these witnesses and the evidence that they have produced against the impeached officer.
Pero attorney, mahalaga po itong stage ng impeachment process, especially for the defense, kasi yung kanilang argument noong clarificatory hearings ng House Justice Committee is that they didn't have the opportunity to cross-examine. What they did was file motions instead before the Supreme Court, a motion to dismiss, meron din yung perjury complaint against Ramil Madriaga as a witness. So dito po sa impeachment trial, they will have their day and their time in court. Now, ang tanong ko po, gano'n naman po crucial din yung appearance ni Vice President Sara Duterte in the impeachment trial, considering na hindi po siya nagpakita at all noong clarificatory hearings doon sa House Justice Committee?
Well, in any cases, the presence of the person being charged is necessary, because from his or her demeanor, you can judge whether somehow he or she may be held liable for that charges, So importante po yung demeanor ng accused din during the trial, kasi inobserbahan niya ng mga senator judges. Secondly, the best also because it would strengthen her claim that she is innocent of the charges. So if she decides to ignore the invitation of the Senate for her to be present, then it will paint her a bad picture on that. It doesn't give a good impression on her. So it would be a must for me as a lawyer for her to appear, so that she can also see face to face the people that who are accusing her and the witnesses being presented before the impeachment court. So, ganun kaganda, yung presence ng isang akusado sa impeachment case.
Pero would you know, attorney, kung required po ba na umaten ng impeachment trial ang akusado, or posible po bang ang kanyang legal team na lamang ang mag-represent sa kanya doon?
Well, in the past impeachment trials, the impeached officer was present. If you recall, the former vice president and also, the former president, and yun po. And besides, the defense, of course, kailangan nilang i-present yung impeached officer to defend her rights, her claims. So necessarily, her presence is needed.
Alright, and attorney, siguro help us understand din ano yung magiging powers dito ng impeachment court ng Senado compared to that of the House when they were conducting their clarificatory hearings. Di ba paulit-ulit po sinasabi ni Chairwoman Jervy Luistro na they cannot go beyond what they can scrutinize because that is the job of the impeachment court. So dito po ba maari pa silang tumawag ng additional witnesses, more evidence, the bank records themselves, and to open even the green box containing the Vice President's tax records?
Well, in the interest of justice, the senator judges can compel any person to appear. No, they have the subpoena power. So even the production of the documents which are subject of the case, it can be subpoenaed by the Senate, acting as an impeachment court.
Okay, and just as a final question, siguro, attorney, when all is said and done, sa tingin nyo, what will this impeachment trial come down to? You already know the articles of impeachment. Ano para sa tingin nyo ang pinakamalakas o may pinakamalakas na basehan for an impeachment of the Vice President among the articles of impeachment?
Oh, I don't want to give my own opinion on that, no. But based on my experience on the past impeachment cases, the SolGen, no? Kasi yung SolGen ang pinaka madaling i-prove because anything that were not alleged in the SolGen, which if established to be in existence or na-establish ng prosecution na merong hindi na declare, which ought to be declared by the declarant, then talagang that is tantamount to a violation of the SolGen law, which may be a ground for also it could be, no. I think pinaka mabigat, no, for me.
All right, we're going to leave that there for now. Marami pa po tayong aabangan. But thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. That was Attorney Alan Panulong, President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Magandang umaga po.
All right, well, stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The International Criminal Court prosecution has proposed that the Crimes Against Humanity trial of former President Rodrigo Duterte may begin on November 30. In a May 15 filing, ICC Deputy Prosecutor Mame Mandyaya-Nyang said pre-trial proceedings are expected to conclude by the end of September. The first status conference in the case is scheduled for May 27. And the charges against Duterte were confirmed by the ICC last April 23, 2026. And now let's talk more about this with ICC accredited lawyer and common legal representative of the victims. We have back on the show Attorney Gilbert Andres. Good morning, Attorney. Thank you for being back here on the program.
Good morning, Pauline, and thanks for having me.
All right, well, Attorney, the ICC prosecution has already proposed November 30 as the start of former President Rodrigo Duterte's trial. Pero, Attorney, tell us how realistic is this timeline given that there are still remaining pre-trial requirements?
Well, it's important to also consider the prosecution's timeline because, in fact, the onus, the duty to actually conduct the trial proceedings is with the prosecution. Now, I think there are no more pretrial issues except the application for appeal with leave, but that should not stop the trial proceedings from commencing.
Attorney, what is that application for leave? Tama po ba?
Well, the defense filed a appeal on the pretrial chamber's decision on the confirmation of charges, but it has to be with leave of the pretrial chamber. So that can actually be a matter that can be decided separate from the preparation for trial.
Well, Attorney, the defense also argues that setting a trial date is inappropriate due to unresolved issues. Kasama na po dyan yung fitness to stand trial ni former President Duterte. But how significant is this argument when it comes to ICC proceedings?
Well, in the first place, it's not a unresolved issue because it was resolved by the pretrial chamber for purposes of pretrial. And in fact, it's not automatic for the trial chamber to accede to any defense request. The trial chamber still has to decide whether or not it will agree with a medical examination of the accused. But suffice it to say that there are actually indications that the accused is fit to stand trial because in fact he was able to decide adequately that he will change his counsel. But these are one of the issues that I think impinges on the commencement of the trial.
And attorney, for the victims now, how important is it for the trial phase to begin without any delay? And what do you see are the possible risks that may arise if the trial is postponed even further?
Well, for the victims, they really expect that the trial will start as reasonably as possible. In fact, in our filings for the victims, we indicated first week of September in accordance with the right to expeditious proceedings of the victims. So remember, Pauline, they've been waiting for decades, actually. So they really want this trial to proceed as reasonably as soon as possible.
And between now and the trial proper, attorney, how are preparations going?
Well, first and foremost, we're preparing for the May 27 for status conference hearing. It will be the first. And in fact, it will also be web streamed. So that's our preparation for now in order that we can adequately argue the views and concerns of the victims.
And attorney, since the charges were already confirmed, help us understand, once the trial officially begins, what can the public expect in terms of presentation of evidence, pati na rin po sa witness testimonies, and just the overall courtroom procedures?
Well, if the trial commences, first and foremost, it will be the prosecution that will present its evidence to prove that Mr. Duterte should be declared guilty. And then the prosecutor will actually give the opening statement. And then it's the duty of the prosecutor to present witnesses as well as other pieces of evidence. And then after that, when the prosecution already presents its evidence, it will be the time for the common legal representative of the victims to present the evidence for the victims, the victimization, the suffered harm. And then after that, it will be the part of the defense to present also their witnesses and their pieces of evidence. So that will be the main flow of the trial proceedings.
And based on your estimate, attorney, how long will the trial proper run for?
Well, it's really difficult to give a precise estimate. Of course, it's merely an estimate. But for me, my personal opinion, maybe it might take 2 to 3 years. Why did I make that number? Because in fact, in the other cases before the court that was previously decided, it's more complicated. There are 20 counts of a mixed number of international crimes, not just crimes against humanity, but also war crimes. But here, the peculiar fact is this is only one type of an international crime, crimes against humanity, and 3 counts. So I think this will be relatively faster compared to other cases decided by the ICC, such as in Al Hassan. So that's why I stated 2 to 3 years.
Oh, but still, this may drag on until 2027 or 2028 or 2029, attorney, no? But now, if we may shift topics and talk about Senator Bato de la Rosa, who is facing and is the subject of a standing arrest warrant from the ICC. Now, we know that the Office of the Solicitor General already submitted its comments to the Supreme Court on the petition filed by Senator de la Rosa for a TRO on this warrant. And in the 83-page document, attorney, the SolGen essentially asked the Supreme Court to deny Senator de la Rosa's plea, calling him a fugitive from justice. Tell us, attorney, what is your take? What did you make of the government's position here?
Well, I agree with it in substance and in principle because, in fact, context is important. Mr. Senator Bato de la Rosa is not just a fugitive from justice in the Philippine context, he's actually a fugitive from international criminal justice. Why? Because he's actually fleeing from an ICC arrest warrant. And an ICC arrest warrant is actually implementable anywhere in the world wherein the state is a party to the Rome Statute or has a domestic law that actually implements an ICC arrest warrant, such as in the Philippines.
And do you also agree, Attorney, with the argument that the imminent danger or potential arrest within the Senate that was cited in the TRO petition of Senator De La Rosa no longer exists now because he already, quote-unquote, escaped or left the Senate premises and is no longer under Senate protective custody. Therefore, wala na po itong imminent danger na kanilang sinasite.
Yes, I agree, because in fact, it's not anymore in the so-called protective custody of the Senate, and actually he has the means actually to protect himself. In fact, he has the means to actually escape from international criminal justice. Therefore, all of the remedies that he is asking from the Supreme Court are actually moot and academic already, based on my opinion.
Attorney, could Senator Bato de la Rosa be compelled to officially disclose his whereabouts or to even appear before the Supreme Court, siguro to justify his need for this motion for TRO?
Well, that's really up to the Supreme Court. What will be the minute resolution or the other orders of the Supreme Court? But I think the bigger picture here is that he's actually running from international criminal justice, and he's actually a fugitive from international justice. And I think that should be the context that should be emphasized.
Now, with that said, Attorney, how crucial is it for the Supreme Court to issue a decision already on Senator Bato de la Rosa's petition, and what would the implications be if the High Court continues to prolong its decision-making on this petition?
Well, it's really difficult to paint a picture on how the Supreme Court will decide, and I will just leave it to the Supreme Court. But suffice it to say that there are still pending decisions before the Supreme Court with respect to the war on drugs. For example, let me disclose that I am a counsel for war on drug victims who actually filed an amparo before the Supreme Court last 2017. We had oral arguments. In fact, it was consolidated with a petition that also challenged the constitutionality of the war on drugs under Mr. Duterte. And yet it's still pending decision until now. This is year 2026. So I don't really know how the Supreme Court will actually decide and what will be the pace of its decision.
But even while waiting for this decision from the Supreme Court, Attorney, do you believe that law enforcement, that the arrest warrant can be served to Senator Bato de la Rosa?
Yes, because in fact, there's no legal impediment for our law enforcement agencies to implement and arrest Senator Bato de la Rosa in the same way that Mr. Duterte was actually arrested because of an ICC arrest warrant. The case of Mr. Senator Bato de la Rosa should not be different. We should just equally apply the law. And what's the law? It's Republic Act 9851, Section 17.
Well, Attorney, you were actually quoted as saying that the ICC warrant against Senator De La Rosa should not be any different from the one served against former President Rodrigo Duterte last year. Pero kung tatanungin po kayo, Attorney, how would you describe how the executive is handling this particular arrest of Senator De La Rosa at present?
Well, I think the executive should be clear. It should be precise. What is its legal position on the matter? Because there seems to be some doubts. There seems to be some conflict. And there seems to be some, I don't know, mga various voices. The executive should give a clear policy statement on this. And in fact, we have already heard it in some form from the DOJ Secretary's press conference last Friday. And with the OSG's comment, that's also a clear statement on the legal position of the executive. And maybe what I can say is that the victims are really praying before President Bongbong Marcos Jr. to just implement the law, RA 9851, Section 17, and to hear the cry for justice and truth by the victims.
But what do you think, Attorney? Is there special treatment with Senator De La Rosa, or do you think the government is being extra cautious, extra careful this time around? Because we all know that how the arrest of the former president transpired last year, and there were several petitions filed before the Supreme Court questioning the legality of that.
Well, special treatment, I think there's special treatment that was accorded by the senators, the Senate majority, because in fact, there was a statement, if I'm not mistaken, by the Office of the Senate Sergeant at Arms, that the protective custody provided to Senator Bato was a privilege, because they were justifying why did he escape, why did he exit. So they say it's a privilege. So that's very clear. If it's a privilege, then it's a special treatment on the sitting senator, when in fact there is an ICC arrest warrant that can be implemented under RA 9851. As to the executive, I think the executive has not been equivocal. It's changing positions. That's why we're asking and pleading for the executive branch to be clear that it should implement the ICC arrest warrant based on our domestic law, RA 9851, and based on Philippine state practice with respect to last year's arrest of Mr. Duterte.
Pero Attorney, how long can the government delay or wait to act on a valid arrest warrant from the ICC? Because this was issued way back in November 2025. It's already been 6 months, and parang wala pa rin any active effort to actually serve this arrest warrant. And if we don't surrender Senator De La Rosa to the ICC, ano po bang implication yan? Can the ICC do anything to the Philippines?
Well, the victims really hope that there's no more delay in the implementation of the ICC arrest warrant by the executive, because they've been waiting too long for Truth and Justice to actually start, can commence with respect to the role of then Chief PNP Bato de la Rosa. Now, as to the ICC's interaction with the Philippines, the complication is that the Philippines actually withdrew, but there's still what we call residual obligations. Yung pong natitirang obligasyon, kahit po kumalas pa po ang Pilipinas sa ICC, mayroon pa pong natitirang obligasyon po ito sa ilalim po ng Article 127, Paragraph 2 ng Rome Statute. At sana po dinggin po ng Pilipinas itong obligasyon nito para po mag-cooperate sa ICC. In the same way po, pareho din po sa pag-cooperate po nito sa ICC, dun po sa pag-implement ng ICC arrest warrant against former President Duterte. Sana patas lang po na pag-implement po at pagsunod sa batas.
And now, Attorney, could the recent actions of Senator Bato de la Rosa end up causing more damage or end up even becoming counterproductive, not just for his case, but even for the case of former President Duterte in the ICC?
Well, in a sense, it provides for a larger socio-political backdrop to the review on the continued detention of Mr. Duterte, because actually it can be argued that if a co-conspirator or co-perpetrator named in the charges, such as Senator Bato, can actually escape an ICC arrest warrant, then that can also be one of the modes of action of the accused, Mr. Duterte. So it can actually be argued, and it actually provides a bigger socio-political backdrop to his detention review.
And speaking of that social political backdrop, Attorney, what do the recent events say about the political power and influence that the Dutertes and their allies still wield here in the Philippines?
Oh, there's still so much influence and power, in fact, actual power by the Dutertes, because in fact, the siblings are still in possession, and the daughter is still a vice president of the Republic of the Philippines. And for the victims of the war on drugs, yung pong sinasabi nila, talagang sa Pilipinas may ibang batas para dun sa makapangyarihan, at may ibang batas para sa pobre. Siguro dapat wakasan na po natin yung hindi pantay-pantay na pagsagawa po at pag-implement po ng batas. Dapat po patas lang po lahat sa batas.
And finally, Attorney, how are the families of the victims reacting also to Senator De La Rosa's camp insisting na dapat may full due process before Senator De La Rosa is surrendered to the ICC? Ano po ang reaction dyan ng pamilya ng mga biktima, and what message would they like to be amplified during this time?
Well, in fact, he's provided full due process, in fact, beyond what's given in the law, ano? And kung tingnan mo, i-contrast mo sa mga biktima, no? Wala silang due process, talagang pinatay lang po, pinaslang lang po mga manahal nila sa buhay. Ang iba po sa loob pa ng kanilang mga bahay po. So, parang pag makapangyarihan, nasa poder, politiko, talagang sobra-sobra na po, ano? Yung due process na nasosobra na nga sa what's provided in the law. Pero pag pobre, wala, gina-justify lang nila yung extrajudicial killing. So, sana patas lang po sa ilalim po ng batas. At sana dinggin din ng ating gobyerno, kay Senado, kay Executive, or law enforcement agencies, yung hinaing at panalangin ng mga biktima para sa katotohanan at hustisya.
All right, well, we're going to leave that there for now. Thank you very much for your time. As always, that was ICC accredited lawyer and common legal representative of the victims, Attorney Gilbert Andres. Thank you, Attorney. Good morning.
Salamat, Pauline. Mabuhay tayo.
Now, don't go away. We still have more matters to discuss after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Filipino cyclist Nash Lim emerged as one of the standout performers of the 2026 MPTC Tour of Luzon after finishing as the highest-ranked Filipino rider overall. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho reports.
At just 23 years old, Filipino cyclist Nash Lim has emerged as one of the biggest stories of the 2026 MPTC Tour of Luzon. Riding for MPT Drive Hub, Lim finished 4th overall in the individual general classification, making him the highest-ranking Filipino rider of this year's tour. A massive leap from his 15th place finish just a year ago. After 14 brutal days of racing, Lim said the difference this time was not just power, but racing smarter.
Siguro po, mas naging smarter ako mag-race. Malaking part din po kasi yung nutrition every day kasi lalo na yun sobrang haba nung stages.
From the mountain stages to the individual time trials, every detail mattered. Lim and his coach, Benedict Abad, credited a more scientific approach to training, focusing on recovery, calorie intake, and race management. After learning hard lessons from international races in China last year, Lim improved the way he fueled his body throughout multi-stages competitions. The results showed. For coach Benedict Abad, the tour also proved something bigger, that Filipino cyclists can compete with foreign riders with the right system and exposure.
Kaya nating sumabay kung tama yung training, yung approach ng training. Because basically, it's really all about training and exposure to more international races.
With races in Poland possibly ahead this July, Lim now sets his sights even higher. And for the next year's Tour of Luzon, the 23-year-old is already thinking about the podium.
So siguro next year, mas yung pinaka-goal ko talaga makaapak ng top 3 or top 1. Tingnan natin. Gusto ko talaga step by step may improvement ako lagi every year.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho, we are One News.
The UAAP is now looking ahead to its next season. The University of Santo Tomas has officially closed season 88 with a grand ceremony honoring student athletes, champions, and season awardees. Mobile journalist Ray Vicente reports.
We're on to the next season. The University of Santo Tomas officially closed the curtains of UAAP Season 88 with a grand closing ceremony last Friday, May 15. With the theme of Strength in Motion, Hope in Action, UST aimed to honor the heroes of the season through an Oscars-inspired event, including a red carpet show and classic performances.
Every cheer, every hard-fought game, every defining moment brought our theme to life, strength in motion, hope in action. This was more than just a slogan. It became our mantra. We saw strength in every athlete, who pushed beyond limits, who rose after every fall, who fought until the final end.
Numerous awards were also given, including 6 Athletes of the Year, Athlete Scholars per school, and as well the MVPs and Rookies of the Year from every sport. Meanwhile, UST retained its general championship, clinching its 49 collegiate titles and 25 in the high school division. Yet, UST Rector echoed that UAAP is not just about the competition.
Here in the UAAP, competition does not divide. It binds us as a community. And tonight, we can proudly say we lived that truth. We stood united in the service of sports and in the service of the Filipino nation.
And to officially conclude the season, turnover rites were conducted, including a ceremonial toast and the passing of the flag and torch to the next host school, the Far Eastern University.
The mantra of the UAP is holistic education, including sports development, sportsmanship, and fair competition. We are happy to note that all 8 schools achieved their championships across the 60 events in the UAP. FEU now humbly accepts the hosting of Season 89 and aspires to continue elevating student-athlete experience. UAAP is truly for everyone.
Season 89 is scheduled to start on September 12, 2026 with the theme of For Everyone UAAP, abbreviating the school FEU. Kapatid Ray Vicente, we are One News.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.